he might well have been violating electoral disinformation, which would mean that the EU's watchdog on electoral disinformation would be following. Luckily, he's in Florida, of course, and he can invoke the First Amendment.
Because we still have.
Doesn't look like this isn't disinformation. They made a doll.
I remind the gentleman from Florida, this is not his time, that he had his time. I thank the gentleman. I don't know where to begin, but let me begin by how do I say this? I really want to try to be a little friendlier to the other side here, but it's always politics, 24/7. The damn hearing isn't about politics. Quite frankly, it isn't about Minnesota particularly. It isn't about that issue. Is that issue worthy of discussion? Absolutely. But the issue here was the threat to America's freedom by foreign countries. Now, just in case anybody needs a reminder, I don't think we do. We got a real lot of smart people in this room. American men and women died so that we have that freedom of speech. American men and women were willing to give up everything so we have that freedom. This is a big deal. And it's always the politics of the day on the other side. It's always whatever's the hot issue, but nothing to do with the hearing is about. And the hearing is important because we really could lose our freedoms. We have other countries controlling the hard-fought freedoms of the United States of America. It's terrible. It's awful. And that's why we're having this hearing. And I thank you all for being here. Mr. Mayo, I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but you're from the ACLU. You're a really smart guy. You know your stuff, right? You're pretty smart. I mean, if I ask you a question, they wanted you to talk about Minnesota because God forbid we talk about the real issue, but you should be able to answer issues of the loss of freedom, whether you're liberal, conservative, Republican, or Democrat, socialist, progressive. I don't care what you are. You should have that right to speak about what you believe. If you're a Christian, you should be able to have that right. If you're Islamic, you should be able to have that right. That's what this hearing's about. And most of all, Mr. Mayo, the hearing is about whether you are an American and you have that right. It's not just, we need another politician here talking about politics. We need somebody that's going to tell us what that freedom really means and what the First Amendment really means. Mr. Price, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I just need yeses or nos because I want to not run out of time. Yes or no? Major social media platforms generally apply one global set of content moderation rules worldwide. We're part of globalism now. We're all the same. Yes or no?
Yes.
Because platforms rely on global rules, global, not American rules. Forgive me, I know some of us aren't American, but I want to talk about America. Global rules, changes to those rules affect users or people that cherish freedom in America. It affects us, yes or no?
Yes, it does.
Under the Digital Services Act, platforms can be fined up to 6% of their global revenue for non-compliance. Yes or no?
Global turnover, yes, sir.
That's a real effective way to stop freedom and freedom of speech. That's what we're supposed to be talking about today, not all this other stuff. We can have a hearing. We are going to have Christine Ohm. We are going to have the Attorney General. We are going to have other hearings. We may have a hearing on Minnesota. And we'll talk about those issues then. But let's talk about this big, bad issue that threatens the very foundation of America and American freedom, for God's sake. Yes or no? Are the threats of fines that large designed to pressure platforms to over-censor speech to avoid getting punished in that way?
Yes, sir, they have that effect.
Yes or no? When Americans are censored because of foreign government pressure, they have no ability. Talk about taxation without representation. This is worse. You lose your freedom of speech, and you have no ability to get those people out of office. They're in another country. They're not liable to you at all, but you have to acquiesce to them. Yes or no?
Yes, we can't get them out of office either.
I know, it's scary. If Americans are losing their speech rights because of laws written overseas, then this is not just a tech issue. This is not some boring issue that people want to put in a closet somewhere where people yawn and forget about it. It's freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the way to raise your family the way you want to, all the freedoms that we cherish in America. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Is it a direct attack on American sovereignty, and shouldn't we do everything we can to stop it?
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big deal. I'm sorry for what you went through. God knows, I mean, to believe, it doesn't matter if they agree with your faith. It's your faith, and it's your right to represent that faith, and you shouldn't go to jail, and you shouldn't be fined, and you shouldn't be embarrassed, and you shouldn't be censored. Damn it, we're sick of it. And so instead of talking about that, which is an area we should all agree on, Republican and Democrat, what do? We avoid it and we go to the political issues of the day. Every hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I
we go
think
to the
the
political
gentleman's
issues of the
time has
day.
expired by 49 seconds.
My time has expired, yes, and I think the real chairman is going to take over now.
We have about 20 minutes. If you can all hang with us 20 minutes, that'd be great. I think we're going to recognize the gentleman from Wisconsin, and then Ms. Hegeman, the gentleman from South Carolina, and then Mr. Onder from Missouri. So, gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Sure, thanks. I'm very glad we're having this hearing. I think it's a very scary hearing, not only because our platforms can be affected by laws abroad, but frequently what happens in the United States I guess I'd say the decline in the United States right now that we see in our culture sometimes follows a decline in Europe. And when we hear what's going on in Europe today, we have to be really careful what's going to happen in this country. When I think that last time a presidential candidate got 48% of the vote after the administration she was in tried to set up a disinformation governance board. I mean, once that was done, that probably should have been in Timbuktu for a long time. But in any event, Mr. Rice, could you give us some more, just quick examples? I'm going to yield to my chairman. Some quick examples, egregious examples, so the American listening public can know the type of speech they are banning in what used to be the wonderful bastion of freedom, Europe.
Yes, sir. Well, my client here beside me, Päivi Räsänen, has given a very good account of what's happened to her, and myself and my colleague Paul Coleman were very honored to stand beside her in her Supreme Court hearing. But that's just only one part of it. In the United Kingdom, in London, where I'm living at the moment, we have a situation where people are being criminally prosecuted for praying silently, for offering to have conversations with people in public places.
Anti-Christianity in Europe.
I think that is a very accurate way of describing it, yes. We have situations where people are being prosecuted for reading scripture when other people find it offensive, particularly people from the Islamic community, and they make criminal complaints. We act for those as well. We have a client, for example, Rose Doherty in Scotland, who held a sign saying, "I'm here to talk if you want," and 5 police officers arrived to arrest, detain, and search her for breaching Scottish law in relation to that. There are many examples. I've given some statistics in my written testimony which outline the dire state of affairs, and I think it's entirely correct what Vice President Vance said when he was in Munich, that we now have a civilizational divide opening up between Europe and the United States. That would be bad enough for us on our own if it wasn't for the fact that the European Union is trying to impose it on you as well by virtue of these tech regulations such as the DSA.
Thank you. I'm going to yield to my great chairman here.
Thank you. Thank the gentleman for yielding. Mr. Price, why are they really going after X?
Sir, it's my view that they're going after X because X has decided to take a maximalist position of free speech, to have the most possible free speech. And that's inimical to their view, which is that we cannot have free speech.
The left loved Elon Musk until he spent, what did he say? I didn't spend $50 billion to buy Twitter. I spent $50 billion to save the First Amendment. So they loved him before he bought X and said, I am going to honor the First Amendment and respect the First Amendment. Would you agree, Mr. Linehan?
Yes, and the effect of all these policies in Europe is, I'll give you one example. In Dublin recently, there were riots, and I've never seen riots in Dublin in my life. You know, this is because people cannot speak honestly about the thing that matters most to them at the moment, which is unchecked immigration, you know. And that frustration and the kind of silencing of alternative voices is what's leading, I think, to things like riots. And I think long term we could see societal collapse. I really do think that it's a possibility in some countries.
And last Congress, we had a journalist from Canada, Rupert Supermanier, came here, testified. She had covered the trucker crisis in Canada back during COVID. She had covered that and been censored for her, as a journalist, had been censored.
Yes.
And she sat right there and said the same thing you did. She said the hallmark of Western civilization is free debate, free expression.
Yes.
And to your point, if you don't have that, the alternative is scary, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't settle, then disputes don't get settled via debate, they get settled via some other way. And that's the scary thing. And that is what is so frustrating. I mean, the DOJ, the SEC, the FTC all go after Elon Musk here in the United States after he buys Twitter. And now we got Spain, the UK, Ireland all going after him, France going after him, the EU. Never before when he was on the left. But as soon as he comes out for free speech,
Yeah.
free expression, here comes the government.